We kindle this flame as a symbol of our gathering. Good morning. Hello at home. Good morning to you as well. You may all have heard Dr. Bonnie Henry's announcement yesterday to limit social gathering. She did make an exception for religious gatherings if we maintain social distance and follow our protocols, which we're doing. But it may be that this, or soon, will be the last time that we're able to gather together in person for a little bit. So please pay attention to the bulletin and stay tuned as to whether or not we're going to be able to meet in person in the coming weeks. Now, next week, we will not be able to meet in person no matter what. I mean, we will be able to, hopefully, but we're not going to, because next week is the CUC's National Gathering service. It will be called Sustaining Our Light. It'll be at 10 o'clock on Sunday, Pacific time. And so again, I will refer you to your bulletin to get more details on that and how to connect in that and participate with that or engage with that on your computers. So just bear all that in mind. Read your e-bulletin, read your e-bulletin, read your e-bulletin. That's going to be a really boring sermon someday, but maybe necessary. But don't make it necessary. Read the e-bulletin. Anyway, it's been an interesting week. Been strange to be both a U.S. citizen and a Canadian resident, to participate in my homeland's presidential election and to witness it from afar in sympathy with my new home's citizenry. Well, I think most of the world has breathed a sigh of relief as of yesterday. My homeland remains divided. And my own emotions are multiple and not yet done with me. And then, of course, I live up here in the north, and here we are in the midst of that international intrigue, turning our attention to those lost when the conflagration in other lands required the blood of this one. As a U.S. expat living up here in the north, I continue to be impressed by the sobriety and seriousness with which Canadians observe Remembrance Day. Down south in the States, Memorial Day is by and large an excuse to drink an extra beer, hang out with friends, and fire up the grill. With some exceptions, it is mostly about consumption and consumerism, more so than actually remembering sacrifice. Perhaps this lack of actual remembering is why we forget the cost of war and elect to pay it again and again when asked. So I feel somewhat unfit to make commentary about Remembrance Day in Canada, particularly given a week that has severely scattered my focus. Perhaps it's better if I turn the pulpit over for now to my trusted service associate, Cynthia. Like me, Cynthia was born in America, but maybe, I don't know, maybe you're no less than an emotional blob than I am. Okay. But you've been here longer than me, so I wonder if you could help a newcomer frame this day.
Good morning. I am extremely happy about what happened yesterday, and I admit that I was crying, which is very unusual for me, but to see a Black Asian woman be on a major ticket is just amazing to me. I never thought I would see it. But today I'd like to talk about Remembrance Day. Remembrance Day was first observed in 1919 throughout British Commonwealth as Armistice Day, to commemorate the Armistice Agreement that ended the First World War on Monday, November 11th, 1918, at 11 a.m. on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. as Ron was alluding to in the US, unless a member of your family was in the military, and as the years went by, that was less and less. Many people didn't pay attention to Veterans Day. It used to be Armistice Day, but now it's Veterans Day, whatever. Most, but not all, schools were closed, libraries, post office, yet the stock market, federal parks, and of course, retail remains open. So kind of a holiday, but really not. It was declared a holiday in 1938, while in Canada, it was celebrated since 1921. Those Veterans Day celebration in the States seemed to me more of a glorification of the armed forces rather than the grieving and the honoring of those who had served and those who had lost lives. So thus, my first Remembrance Day here 7 years ago as a resident just blew my mind. There were banners on the streets, each one dedicated to a particular war veteran, buses all over town saying, "Lest we forget," and everyone wearing poppies on their left lapel. So I became fascinated with the poppy phenomena, and for this Remembrance Day, I went and did a little bit of history. So some of you may know this, some may not. The poppy campaign began on last Friday in October and continues until November 11th. Replica poppies are sold by the Royal Canadian Legion, and the money raised for donations provides direct assistance to veterans in financial distress. The poppy became widespread in Europe after the soils in France and Belgium became rich with lime from the debris and rubble from the fighting during the First World War. These little red, yellow flowers flourished around the grave sites of the war dead. The poppy history starts in 1915. Some of you may know this from school, when John McCrae, a doctor serving with the Canadian Artillery, famously made note of this phenomena in his poem, In Flanders Field, which starts out, "In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row." Then on Saturday, November 19th, 1918, 2 days before the armistice, Moyna Michael was on duty in the reading room of the YMCA Overseas War Secretary's headquarters in New York. After reading McCrae's poem, Moyna made a personal pledge to always wear the red poppy of Flanders Fields. Say that 5 times fast, by the way, Flanders Fields, as a sign of remembrance and for keeping the faith with all those who had died. In 1920, Anna Guerin, the French poppy lady, attended the American Legion conference as a representative of France's YMCA Secretariat. She was inspired by Moyna Michael's idea of the poppy as a memorial flower and felt that the scope of the memorial poppy could be expanded to help the needy. She suggested that the artificial poppies could be made and sold as a way of raising money for the benefit of the orphaned children and others who had suffered greatly as a result of the war. In 1921, Madame Guerin visited Canada and convinced the Great War Veterans Association of Canada, a predecessor of the Royal Canadian Legion, to adopt the poppy as a symbol of remembrance in the aid of fundraising, which it did on July 5th of 1921. So on the 11th, please take some time to remember more than the 2,300,000 Canadians who have served throughout our nation's history, and more than 118,000 who made the ultimate sacrifice.
I find I can either wear a mask or my glasses, but not both. I don't know if anyone else has that problem. All right, well, nice to see you all. And I have a little story that I found last week while I was rooting around for something else, which is usually the way. And unfortunately, it's not about Remembrance Day, and it's not about the presidential election, but I'm going to ask your indulgence and just go for it anyway. So we'll call this the Department of, and now for something completely different. So this is a story that I think happened at the Vancouver Aquarium here, and I know that it must have happened before 2005, back when you were allowed to smoke in public. So the news event was, one of the dolphins at the aquarium had just given birth, and the local paper sent a reporter out to cover this event. They pulled a veteran guy off his regular beat. I think he might have been the political reporter, This sort of grizzled, jaded guy, not too thrilled with the assignment. This was way too soft a story for him. He really didn't want to be there, but he figured he'd just show up, get a quote from the trainer, sort of mail something in, and be back on his bar stool by 3:30. So he's at the aquarium, and there's a press briefing, oh hum. Everybody's marched down to the cetacean tank, and there are the dolphins, and they've gathered by the glass to say hello, as they do. And there's the new baby dolphin. Ah. So the reporter pulls out his notepad and jots a couple of notes, takes a slug of the bad coffee he's been given, and then he leans against the glass of the tank and he starts chain smoking. And after a few moments, the family of dolphins swims away to the other side of the tank, but the baby dolphin hangs back. Something about this rumpled old reporter kind of engages her, and she swims right up to the glass, and she looks at the reporter, and the reporter looks back at her, and then the reporter, who's just too cool for school, this guy, takes a lungful of smoke and blows it in the dolphin's face. And the dolphin recoils a bit and hangs there for a moment, and then she swims off. But a minute later, she's back, and the reporter's still standing there leaning against the glass. And the dolphin waits for him to notice her, and then when he does, she very deliberately blows smoke in his face. And wait, what? What? The reporter's going, what just happened? Well, it turns out the dolphin had swum back to her mother, who had been nursing her, and she drew in a mouthful of milk, and then she swam back to the reporter and puffed it out. And when it dispersed in a big cloud in the water, it just looked just like smoke. That's what had happened. But something else happened right after that. A staff member who had been watching this whole thing go down summed it up like this. He said, "I have never seen cynicism evaporate so quickly in an individual." So the Spanish have a word, duende, when the ordinary world is pierced by something breathtaking. And on that day at the aquarium, that reporter, that seen-it-all guy, got steamrolled by duende. So why am I telling you this? No reason really, except that it's a cool story and I happened to find it. Dolphins are smart. But I think I needed to find that story this week. And I'll speak for myself, but I think I might be speaking for some of you too when I say that as we grow older, the world loses its enchantment just a little bit. And right now the world feels awfully disenchanted. Forget interspecies communication. We can't even share a moment like that with other humans. The aquarium's closed, the world is basically shattered, and the despair and the cynicism are so thick in the air, maybe not quite as much as they were a week ago, but they're still thick in the air, that I'm not sure I have a story in my hopper of chicken soup for the Unitarian soul that could even cut through it. It's like there's a buffer between us and whatever magic is lurking out there. And we need help finding it again. We need each other to help us find the duende. We need to tell stories that remind us that it's still there. We need this place. We need our Sundays. We need Ron. We need community. I can't tell you how many times I've heard something in here that just turned like a key in a lock for me. It might be Ryan getting off a zinger observation with that absolutely funereal deadpan delivery of his, and I'm thinking, that is high-quality chicken right there. I would pay for that in a club. Last week it was Rebecca summoning those ghosts. Many weeks it's the choir. Sometimes it's a question I didn't know I was asking myself until I heard it asked in here. So then you go, okay, yeah, I'm in the right place. That's why we wound up here in this strange denomination we have to explain to everybody. That's why we ended up in this congregation, and we kicked the tires, and we never left. So I guess what I'm saying is, your annual pledge is not a line item in the budget you can afford to cut this year. And it's tempting to cut it, because a lot of us are looking for spare change under the sofa cushions right about now. And church is one of those things that you can't really measure the benefit of. And you can't measure the loss of it in your life when you don't go. But you can feel it. And COVID isn't going to go on forever, We'll be back together before we know it. But in the meantime, we need to keep doing church as best we can. through masks, at a distance, on Zoom, by calling people up, delivering lasagna to folks, book clubs on somebody's back deck, whatever it is. We need to protect the spirit of this place. And we actually do need to make sure the power stays on and the staff get paid. We need to keep this campfire going through the night. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Hopefully this is a place where we can court enchantment and craft enchantment, discover, recognize enchantment. And today that enchantment has to do with remembering the fallen. Friends, I can tell you that my attention has been a mite divided this week. The stakes and uncertainty of the two-party horn locking in my homeland has me, I think, righteously distracted. And yet I am also cognizant and with great gratitude at that about where I am. I appreciate how Canadians treat the observance of Remembrance Day with the respect that it deserves, not to glorify war or revel in good fortune, but to recall what it is that was lost and what it is that is asked when we ask people to take arms in the name of the state. It's a complex historical arithmetic. It's not simple. And so it is not met with pablum, but rather the reverence required of a non-simple reckoning. So as we remember, it is likely plain, but perhaps worth stating nonetheless, that I do not know what it feels like to face death in the form of battle. I do not know what it feels like to walk toward excruciation for the sake of anything. My relationship with sacrifice is thin relative to what was given and asked for by the people we remember today. It is laughable that I dare make commentary on it. And yet it is equally dangerous that we not comment on it, that we fail to conjure their lives and the reasons and consequences of their deaths. And so we, as a civilization, remember and pray that it remains memory. Public memory is a kind of storytelling that reminds us who we are, how we got here, and who we wish to be. It is an enchantment, a spellcraft that elicits from us both admiration and critique, and in the end, gratitude that we are all still breathing, that we still have the opportunity to make our society worthy of their sacrifice. We have work to do. That will take some magic making as well. And I would put it to you that this is as good a place to do such work as there is. I've heard that when it comes down to it, when the bullets start flying, that what motivates people to face them is not some abstract ideal, such as democracy, nor does patriotism get one out of the trenches and into the line of fire. Rather, it is the feeling of mutual responsibility for one's comrades that in the critical moment empowers the will to sacrifice. We'll have to set aside for a moment the irony that friendship fuels the ability to kill in order to draw our focus to this power that induces self-sacrifice, friendship. For while the irony is tragic, the prime mover here gives us great hope, and maybe even a map. That is to say, while it is true that friendship can be weaponized, it is also, and perhaps more fundamentally true, that friendship and mutuality draws forth the most selfless acts. Now, if we can only find a way to make more friends. Perhaps there is a clue in our shared experiences of the most essential things, experiences that are prior to words, prior to categories. Perhaps there are clues in matters of spirit or matters of music. just going to open this door here for safety's sake. It should be open. There we go. Okay. So war does not happen in isolation. And while we honor those called today to sacrifice themselves in its conduct, I can only think of armed conflict as a systems failure. The trouble is, I have very little control over others' systems. I, in this case, applies to any self-identifier from me personally on up to my political party, my country. And of course, it's hard enough just to keep those systems in order, much less those that are alternative or opposed to them. There's a systems failure occurring in my homeland. People are approaching a perspective there that feels unmovable and reinforced into tunnels of increasingly limited view and dehumanization. Now, even as I pray that the events of the U.S. election begin to repair that circumstance, I am also aware that this is not a new situation and not a situation even isolated to that country. Now, some of it was baked into the system there from the very beginning. Some of it is the result of our current information gathering methods, where information dissemination is literally sponsored by advertisers who need eyeballs to make it worth their while. That's not necessarily new, but the potency and scope of it is at a new level. So it turns out, of course, in regards to that binary scare tactics are good for the bottom line. And it's the same line of propaganda that any state or power employs in the lead up to war. Amp up the fear, dehumanize the other, reify the sense of self. Only this time it is as unintentional as it is intentional. I've been made aware, since I've been up here, that of the senior Trudeau's famous characterization of Canada's relationship with the U.S. as being that of a mouse next to a sleeping elephant. To my mind, that's pretty stereotypically Canadian in its self-deprecation. You're more than a mouse, at least an opossum, you know. There's obviously an element of truth in it. And that sleeping giant, that sleeping elephant, is in the midst of a nightmare that will not end with this partial regime change. It may become less intense in its night terrors, but the underlying systemic issues will persist until they or we develop the capacity to realize the value of the other. We Northerners should witness the warning there, particularly on this Remembrance Day week. For if there is a core malfunction with the U.S., it is one shared by much of humanity throughout history. That malfunction is the fear of the other, and possibly a bizarre need for that fear in order to prop up one's own self-worth. And that is why our first principle is so important. Every person has inherent worth. That doesn't mean everyone who looks like you, or thinks like you, or attends your church or school, or lives in your neighborhood, state, or country, or province. It means everyone. Even when their thinking is disagreeable and their behavior is despicable. It may well be that their behavior is despicable precisely because they have lost sight of others and their own inherent worth. Hurt people hurt people. It is our responsibility to protect ourselves and others from the perpetuation of that cycle. And so we will do what it takes, up to and including the ultimate sacrifice. Yet if we practice our faith, it may be that the ultimate sacrifice will not be needed. For we are a people that says your hurt was not your fault. That your underlying beauty is more powerful than your pain. That the world in your eyes can be beautiful again, because the soul contained therein is deeply, wholly lovable. We have seen the healing possible when we grant understanding to not only ourselves, when we grant that understanding to not only ourselves and not only to others, but to ourselves and others at the same time. We affirm that the recognition of self-worth of all beings will help you to see our mutuality, will lead you to feel that I am of thee and you are of me, and will make friendship possible with the very earth and all the peoples and people on it. Now, I do not pretend, as attractive as our proclamation is, that it is always an easy perspective to maintain. It can be hard to hold the worth of others, or of even yourself, in your heart. But it is certainly necessary. And it will be joyful. And for the sake of those who lost their lives to its alternative, we pledge ourselves to its beloved practice. So in other religious spaces, Allison, is it right that that's called the doxology in some places? Is that right? I just remember that song, that tune is one of the reasons that I'm up here today, because when I was a kid at First United Methodist in Phoenix, Arizona, I was a usher, so it was a huge church, and we would, do the offering, get all the money, and then run to the back and dump it in a bigger basket. And then they had these huge oak doors at the back, and they would fly open. Everybody would stand up, and they would do that tune, and there were some Christian words with it. And we would walk up and present the money to to whatever. But I just remember, what I remember most from that situation is feeling like I was Luke Skywalker at the end of the first Star Wars, and I was about to go get my medal, and we walked up in like a little flanking procession, and man, that hooked me pretty deeply. Didn't have to blow up a Death Star or anything. Anyway, I would invite you to join me today in a spirit not of prayer so much of contemplation and meditation. I would like to invite our musicians back up to accompany me in our meditation. So if you would get yourself comfortable and in a position that doesn't require much of your attention, take a few deep breaths. I'll invite the musicians to play and begin speaking in a moment. So as you tune into your breath, and marry that to the music as if it was your own instrument. I invite you to say in your heart these words. May I be well. May I be at peace. May I be healthy. May I be filled with joy. Filled with joy. Now imagine someone who you love. May they be well. See them at peace. May they be healthy. And may they be filled with joy. Now imagine someone with whom you have interaction, but don't know very well. May they be well. May they be at peace and be healthy. May they be filled with joy. Bring to mind someone with whom you have difficulty. It could be somebody that you know personally or somebody that you only know through media. Someone with whom you have difficulty. May they be well. May they be at peace. May they be at peace. May they be healthy. And may they be radiant with joy. May all beings be well. May all beings know peace. May all beings experience good health. May all beings be filled with radiant joy.
So we are the North Shore Unitarian Church, and our mission is to empower people with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. If this is one of your first times participating in our Sunday service from home, we'd like you to say hi in the comments section. You'll find a warm welcome, I'm sure. In this community, we celebrate people from all walks of life. No matter how you experience the sacred, no matter how or who you love, we hope you feel welcome. We are a busy congregation with a lot going on, so please read your weekly e-bulletin or check the upcoming events page on our website. If you haven't subscribed to the e-bulletin, you can do that by clicking on the link in the YouTube description or reach out to our administrator, whose contact information is on our website. There's just a few things I'd like to draw your attention to. Ron talked about no service here next week, which is November 15th. Next weekend, we're going to watch the Canadian Unitarian Council's 10 a.m. Sustaining Our Light. Say that 5 times fast. To watch the Canadian Unitarian Council, hosted by 5 ministers from all across Canada. The service will focus on how we need each other to create community. The link to register is also in the bulletin and also on the top page of our website. Circles of Light, small group ministry. You're invited to join one of our Zoom or in-person Circles of Light small groups. More info and sign-up link is on the top page of the website and also in the e-bulletin. Stewardship, which Bruce so eloquently talked about this morning, is still going on. So if you're willing to donate any amount to the church to help us pay for operating costs in the coming year, please use the links in your e-bulletin, or there's a button on the top of our website. Every little bit helps. So thank you for your participation in these activities and for your attention. And I know we have one more announcement.
Thank you, Cynthia. I just would like to express our and my gratitude to our amazing players. It's so incredible to hear your music. Thank you so much. Thank you. They will also be with us on the 22nd, so long as we're actually all meeting. Who knows what will happen. But anyway, thank you so much. We're really grateful.
So if you haven't done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment or check out our updated website. And now, please join with me as we extinguish our chalice. Yeah, it's right here. We extinguish this flame. The world calls to us to live with greater depth, meaning, and purpose. I don't think it really wants to leave.
So after the benediction and the Circle Round for Freedom song, I invite you all to remain in your chairs, if you will, if you want to, for a few minutes as the postlude is played by our guest musicians, by Catherine. But we noticed last week that people were lingering, and because the music was playing, that we were also getting closer and closer together. And as the numbers rise, that's a circumstance that we want to try to avoid. So if you are enthusiastic to speak, I invite you to enjoy the beautiful sunshine today. And if you would prefer to take a moment and wait and speak in here, I would encourage you to wait until after the music has finished playing. So we're all trying to keep each other safe here, of course, which is why we enjoy the musical accompaniment of the freeway during our services, so that we have some good ventilation and air to breathe. And now, if you would all please rise and body your spirit to receive the benediction as we leave this place, this sacred place, this place where we enchant one another and remind ourselves that we live in an enchanted world, where we have gathered today to remember the sacrifices that have allowed us to practice in this way. Let us do so with gratitude, with reverence, and let us go forth signing and with music.